Hello, Shiver Seekers. Are you ready to follow us into the unknown? I'm Cynthia.
And I'm Stephanie. You have found the dark oak. In today's episode, we explore one of the most well documented cases of reincarnation. This is the case of Shanti Devi.
Welcome to the Dark Oak, the mystery podcast with purpose. Each month through our charity, the Branch of Hope Foundation, we give a portion of our earnings from our Patreon and sponsorships directly to a nonprofit related to the first episode of the month. To find out more, stick around to the end of this episode, check out our Instagram, The Dark Oak Podcast, or go to our website, thedarkoak.com.
Well, thank you, lady. I feel like a whole new me with my new glasses, my new old lady glasses. It's happening.
You look so cute. I love them.
I've been in denial the last few months. I kept saying, "Oh, I'm just tired. Oh, it's just early in the morning. Oh, there's not enough light in here." And then I started noticing my oldest son, my 11-year-old, started making fun of me whenever I was helping him with his schoolwork because on his math work, I don't know why they make the digits so small, but I kept confusing the plus sign and the division sign whenever I was explaining the problems. And he was like, Mama, you need some glasses.
Oh, it's
So
time.
here I am. I'm working with my glasses for the first time. I'm noticing there's a little glare on the screen here, but I'll figure out how to work around that. These are my cheapies. I just did Wally World cheapies to get me started. But I think I could like the world of glasses. It's like a new fashion thing, right?
No, you really actually look adorable. You really do.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
So
Whole new me. I'm totally embracing it. I'm not upset by it. It won't be long and you'll have to put on your glasses in order to see my glasses.
that's true. Though I love the look of glasses, I actually have a hard time with glasses. I don't even like sunglasses. I don't like hats. I struggle with things on me. I will wear sunglasses if I absolutely have to, and that's it. So it would be a bigger deal for me to have to wear glasses, I think. I think I would do contacts if I could choose. I know for like readers, you can't. It's not like you put contacts in just to read.
Oh no, I'm all about an accessory. I don't normally wear them because again, I homestead. Like, why am I going to wear an accessory? But I'm all about a big hat, some big shoes, big jewelry, big glasses. Like, let's do it up. I love it.
I love it. It's super cute. I just can't stand it on me.
Okay, well, you can just look at it on me then. Tell me, okay, what's the big show thing happening today?
Okay, so I survived the series finale of Handmaid's Tale. Now, I know
Okay.
you don't watch that show. I would assume that a lot, if not the majority of our listeners do. I've been following this show from the beginning, and it's one of those where you get so wrapped up, and I survived it. I've survived it. That's all I can say. It wasn't exactly what I hoped to see. I am not mad either.
Okay, well, that's not bad for a finale.
It's
That's
not
not
bad.
bad at all.
It's not
No,
bad.
and it's nothing against watching it. It actually seemed like a really interesting show because of interest that my family has. I've already subscribed to a myriad of other streaming services, so I just don't have Hulu at this very moment. But now that all the episodes are out, maybe it'll go into some of the other streaming services. I don't know if it's still called syndicating when you allow other streaming services to have it, but maybe I'll have access to it now. So that may be kind of fun. And then I could just binge all of the seasons all at one time and get up to speed.
Yes. Now, I probably need to prepare you. Fun is not the right word for The
Oh,
Handmaid's Tale. One of the heaviest shows I've ever watched. And it's so good. It is dark. It is heavy, but it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. The cinematography is gorgeous.
and so recognizable. I've never seen the show, but I know if you see like a red cape and the hood, the
Yeah.
white hood. That's Handmaid's Tale.
Yep. So please watch it, but also please be in a good mental space when you do.
Gird your loins. All right, I got it. I got
There you
it.
go.
Okay, well, congratulations, all you Handmaid Tale followers. Let us know what you thought.
That's right. And look out for the Testaments because now there's the sequel coming.
Okay, well, let's get into our last episode in our 100th episode celebration. 9 weeks of bonus episodes, and this is the final one, which makes me have a little tear. It's just been so amazing cranking out so much content. But today, as I mentioned, I'm going to bring the reincarnation case of Shanti Devi. And this is one of the most well-documented cases of reincarnation in modern studies. And it is definitely one of the most convincing, which is why I've chosen this one. Now, to date, Shanti Devi's claims have been studied by hundreds of researchers, critics, scholars, saints, and eminent public figures from all parts of India where Shanti resides and abroad. So this is a worldwide study on the story this little girl brought to light, and it followed her as she grew into adulthood as well. Now, I want to set the scene for the stage of our story. India at this time was experiencing change on a large scale. Mahatma Gandhi was beginning to emerge as a prominent leader, bringing attention to the fact that India was being unfairly treated under British colonial rule. Beginning in the 1920s, Gandhi began encouraging his fellow Indians to peacefully boycott British goods, institutions, and services in order to protest colonialism. His simple lifestyle and unwavering commitment to truth made him a global symbol of peace and freedom. We talk about him still pretty regularly, even here in the States. And as a result of his influence, India would go on to receive its independence from Britain in 1947. Of course, since we're talking about Gandhi, I decided to throw out a few Gandhi-isms because, come on, how can you not? So you've got the be the change you wish to see in the world.
Beautiful.
The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
Mm.
An eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind. And one of my personal favorites, in a gentle way, you can shake the world.
Yes. He's a wise man, isn't he?
Genuinely incredible. I read a ton about Gandhi when I was researching this. I didn't put it all in here because it's not necessarily relevant to Shanti's story, but what an amazing individual he was.
Yeah.
So peaceful and spoke so gently, but so absolutely firm in his convictions and beliefs. There's a reason he is a hero. He is truly someone that I think deserves a lot of respect. I'm so grateful to know I've shared Earth with him. It's so cool. Now, you can imagine during this time of change that Gandhi is helping to create, there was also a revival in Indian culture. So I'm talking a renewed interest in indigenous languages, literature, and traditions as a form of resistance against colonial culture dominance. Because when England came in, they started changing the way India functioned. So India was trying to reclaim a lot of those traditions. In order to help promote that, whenever Gandhi would find out something really cool that was happening in India, he would latch onto it and promote it to bring out pride in his people, which I think is so cool. It just so happened that Shanti's story is one that he promoted. So he got really interested in her case and ordered an independent commission to be formed to investigate her case, which is why we have such excellent documentation today. So let's get into her story. Shanti Devi was born on December 11th, 1926, as a perfectly healthy baby in Delhi, India. It was reported that Shanti didn't speak until the age of 3, but as soon as she could, she started talking about what she claimed was her past life. So this is very early on.
Really early, which is interesting. A 3-year-old has a lot of pretend. They pretend a lot. They have imagination. I can see it being almost not even noticed in the beginning.
Right. At the age of 4, she told her parents that her home was in Mathura, a town 75 miles from where she was currently living. So 75 miles from Delhi. According to reports, neither Shanti nor her parents had ever even been to Mathura. So she should have had no idea where it even was or what it was.
Right.
But Shanti paid this detail no mind and continued giving details about the town, including specific details like shops and streets.
I'm already covered in goosebumps because that's wild.
I told you in the teaser from Wednesday, if there was ever a case that could make you believe in reincarnation, this is the one. As she grew, even simple events would trigger memories of her former life. For example, eating a certain meal would remind her of foods she used to enjoy. Or while getting dressed, she'd tell her mother about clothes she used to wear. She also frequently told her mother that she was not her real mother. She would say things like, quote, "You're not my real mother. You don't even look like her," end quote.
That's strange to hear from your child. Very
Eerie.
strange. Yeah.
At this point, I would just think it's eerie and a little weird and maybe a little insulting. I don't know.
Right. Well, if it's happening every day, which it sounds like it's at least happening quite regularly,
Frequently.
right, then it would just be like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. She also declined to eat non-vegetarian food and would say she wanted sattva food, Satva, sattva food. Now, this was particularly puzzling for Shanti's family because no one in New Delhi used the word sattva. Her parents didn't even know what it meant. But Shanti went on to explain to them that sattva means vegetarian. And sure enough, they later figured out that this word was used in India and means vegetarian and is used in the city of Mathura.
Okay, this is a dumb question. There's no TV at this time, right? It's in the 20s, maybe 30s.
Right.
So there's no TV and it's in
Especially
India.
in India.
Right. Is she going to a school? Is she
At this point, she's not even going to school. No.
Okay. So there's no outside influence that is giving her these ideas. Okay.
Not that anyone could find, including the commission assigned by Gandhi.
Okay.
So no, we couldn't find any.
Okay.
Now, this is where I think it would go a little beyond imagination if it was my child, because Shanti began to speak of her husband. She told her parents that her husband was a merchant. He was fair. And I've just read fair 100 times, so I don't know if fair means like he was handsome or fair means he was equitable. But whatever it was, he was either handsome or a nice guy. One of those two.
Hopefully both.
Hopefully both, fair and fair. He had a wart on his left cheek, and he wore reading glasses. Very specific. Shanti eventually revealed to her parents that her previous name was Lugdi Devi. Now, I will say they both have the last name, but it's unrelated. So it would be like in the States, two people with the last name Williams. Like it just kind of happens. So even though the last names are the same, they were not related through family. But she specifically said this name of Lugdi Devi. She went on to explain that Lugdi had lost her life shortly after bearing a son in October of 1925. And if you're doing the math, that would have been almost 1 year before Shanti was born. So this timeline for those that follow the dynamics of reincarnation, that's one of the hallmarks. It's a very quick turnaround, if you will. I don't think that's the right word, but it's a very quick evolution into another being.
Okay.
So that year mark is actually a big deal. Shanti even went on to describe specific details about Lugdi's labor pains and the surgical procedures that she had undergone in order to try to save her life after the birth of her son.
And how old is she at this point?
I'm not exactly sure when she revealed the name of Lugdi, but I think at this point, based on what I know of the timeline later, I think she was 7.
So young.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You and I have already said we would really start digging into some of this with our children. I don't have any explanation for it, but even with everything we've gone over, her parents still chalked it up to an overactive imagination. When Shanti started going to school, though, that's when we really see some things coming to light. She continued to speak about her past life and all of its details. Now, think about how crazy that would be to have an elementary school student speaking about their husband, foreign foods, how she died. I mean, it's different.
It's sad to say, but she'd be labeled the weird kid.
Oh, for sure. Every article I read said that most of the students and teachers ignored her. Quite frankly, I think that would be a best case scenario in today's modern world, I suppose. However, someone was paying attention. The principal at Shanti's school started noticing that Shanti was using Mathura dialect and that her story stayed relatively consistent. And I think that's a big key too.
Right. Especially if you're making something up that's fantastical, which to say you were this whole other person who lived before you were even born, I would say that could fall into the category of fantastical. But if a child is telling a fantastical story, I can see the details changing. I can see it getting even more and more elaborate as time goes on. So the fact that she did pretty much keep to that consistent story, I would say that's interesting.
Now, this principal was so interested in what Shanti was saying that he would regularly engage Shanti, like, so tell me about this in your past life. Tell me about this in your past life. And Shanti got more comfortable talking about her story. So one day at the age of 8, Shanti tells the principal that her previous husband's name was Kedar Nath Chaubey. This is the first time she's ever revealed a name. She's described him, she's talked about his life, but she's never said a name before. So this clever principal decided to see if it was true. He began looking for a merchant named Kedar Nath Chaubey in Mathura, and he found him. So, taking a chance, he wrote a letter to this man to see if any of the details Shanti had been reporting were correct. Now, according to this principal, he honestly never expected to hear back from anyone. He assumed that Kedar Nath would think that he, meaning the principal, was the crazy one and blow him off because
Sure.
this is an outrageous request and story. But as it turns out, the opposite was true. In a letter, a merchant named Kedar responded saying he indeed lived in Mathura. He also had a late wife who had died 10 years ago, 10 days after giving birth to his son.
That's wild.
So I don't know about this principal, but I would have been flipping out if I got a letter back like that.
It's crazy. I believe a lot of people believe in reincarnation. I never have, but so I guess to them, that's like, well, yes, of course, that's how it works. But
Right.
for me, a
Right.
non-believer, wow, that's wild.
Yeah. Afterwards, this principal decided to connect Kedar Nath with Shanti's family. Now, remember, at this point, Shanti's family still thought she was just making stuff up. Like, they hadn't bought into any of it. So to them, I'm sure the principal calling and say, hey, I've been listening to these fantastical tales, as you called them. I've been listening to fantastical tales from Shanti. And I looked up this guy that lives, over 100 kilometers from us. And he also wants to meet you guys. I'm sure they were like, what?
Yeah. This is
And
unwelcome, uninvited.
yeah, and like Barton and I always say, like, not just what, but like WUT, like what?
Yeah.
What? But after they spoke with Kedar, they began to believe something might really be going on. Like there might really be something more to it. And Kedar was excited too because he desperately missed his wife. So for him, this was invigorating and he was hopeful. But there was naturally a good deal of skepticism from both sides. So the two parties decided that Kedar, along with his cousin, his present wife, and Lugdi's 10-year-old son, Nonita, would travel to New Delhi, but no one would tell Shanti about the visit.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart.
Yeah. Shanti's family, who was also skeptical, was like, yeah, let's do this plan. Let's see if we can suss it out.
Right.
Kedar came up with a scheme where his cousin would first meet with Shanti and claim to be her past husband because they looked similar. So that day when Shanti came home from school, she was escorted into a room where Kedar's cousin was seated. She immediately recognized him, but when he declared himself as her former husband, she immediately refused and said, no, you're his cousin. Immediately she knew who he was.
Stephanie! Ooh, I'm getting chills.
Now, upon hearing this, Kedar just entered the room. He was like, okay, I cannot believe that just happened. This caused Shanti to become overwhelmed with emotion. She immediately began crying and touching his feet. And this act of touching feet is not something we do here in the States, so I looked at the meaning to give you a bit more context. In Indian culture, the act of touching the feet of elders, teachers, or other respected individuals is a deeply meaningful gesture that embodies respect, humility, and reverence. By bending down and touching an individual's feet, you could express a sense of submission and devotion. It's a heartfelt way to strengthen bonds, maintain cultural values, and foster a sense of community and mutual care.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that so sweet?
It is.
Then Shanti turned and saw her, well, Lugdi's son. It's very difficult to distinguish here, but she turned and saw her son. She apparently just lost it, was just overcome with emotion and hugging him and crying, getting to meet her son.
Who is pretty much her age, a year older than her, right?
Yeah, to set the scene here, it's an 8-year-old girl meeting her 10-year-old son.
Right.
But also,
everybody, how compelling. But also for the husband, how weird would that be? Like, this is my soulmate in the body of an 8-year-old. That's all kinds of weird.
Oh, it's yes. Yes. I understand there are many, many cultures and religions that embrace reincarnation, but not many that are reincarnated are aware of their past lives. And maybe this is why, because it could get a little weird.
Okay, and I was going to ask you at the end of all this, if reincarnation is a real thing, then it's not just Lugdi who's been reincarnated, right? Maybe I'm reincarnated, if that's how it works.
Right.
Why does she remember her past life and I don't? So I was going to ask you about that later.
I will go into it a little bit more. As I was researching this topic of reincarnation, I realized even the prominent religions that believe in reincarnation, not all of them believe in the same steps of reincarnation.
Okay.
Or even the goal of reincarnation. So I'm going to go over a little bit of that and highlight what each one believes, what each one means, and really what is the goal of reincarnation? Because each of those are a little bit different too. I think some would answer the further you are in your reincarnation evolution, the more enlightened, the more knowledge, the more time your soul, your power has been on this earth, the more you might be aware of. I think that might be one way it could be explained. Outside of that, I don't know. I don't know. She's just kind of a 1 in a million, I guess.
Okay.
Now, after this reunion, Shanti, or Lugdi, I guess at this point, and Kedar spoke for a long time, some about just public affairs, some about personal, intimate things. And Kedar was really interrogating Shanti on a few things, like personal things, but he reported he found no discrepancies. Kedar declared Shanti Devi to be the reincarnation of his late wife, Lugdi Devi.
That's pretty amazing.
A report by an investigator on the case in 1937 wrote, quote, "He found the replies to be quite correct and was moved to tears. It was as though his dead wife was speaking," end quote. Through the mouth of an 8-year-old.
Right. What a beautiful idea. You know,
of course,
to be able to speak to someone who you've lost and to be able to say all the things you wish you could say. I'm lucky him, huh?
Right. That's absolutely true. Now, Shanti spent several days with Kedar and their son before they needed to return to Mathura. Shanti begged her parents to allow her to return as well, but her parents refused.
Obviously.
And I get it. About this time, news of the encounter began to spread like wildfire. Major newspaper outlets covered this case extensively, and millions were now curious to know if it was actually true. And this is where Mahatma Gandhi enters the picture. When Gandhi opened his investigation into the case in 1935, the first thing on his list was accompanying Shanti on a trip to her former home. That would make sense, right?
Sure.
This became even more pressing when Shanti promised that she could lead them directly to her old house and even direct them to a hidden box of money she had buried there.
Stephanie, stop it.
Both of these things seem like a pretty good test, right, Cynthia?
Yes.
With honestly little chance to say no, Shanti's parents had to agree. I mean, when you have Gandhi saying, "I want you to go," you go.
Yeah.
So in November of 1935, a dozen researchers joined Shanti and her parents on the 3-hour train ride to Mathura. As one of the investigators recounted, quote, once getting out of the railway station, the girl was put in the front seat and our carriage went ahead of all the others. So if you think about it, it's like a caravan of carriages. Necessary precautions were taken that no pedestrians should be allowed to lead the way. The driver was instructed to follow the route indicated only by the girl without caring as to where he went, end quote. Girl, she took them right to her house. Straight to her former house. And along the way, she pointed out to the commission all the things that had changed in the past 10 years.
Wow. Okay.
Like streets that were not formally paved and new buildings. Like, oh, that building's new. Oh, that's a new street. And the driver confirmed all the observations were correct.
All right. For a minute, I was thinking, did she and Kedar, for some reason, take some time to talk privately? And he say, okay, it's the third house on the left. It's green with a red door or whatever. But this would be too much, even for that, to be able to go straight to the location, to point out all the things that are different. I think this would be too much, even if she had been told, hey, there's a box of money under this floorboard. Tell everybody about that. I don't know. This would be pretty hard to fake.
And you and I have kids that age, and our kids are very bright. But I don't know that my kids would be able to be this detailed and confidently detailed.
Yeah, you're right. I'm
without a significant amount of coaching. But even that, I think a commission that's almost trying to find you to be a fraud, I think they would parse through even my kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think they would be like, that's not right. Or that story doesn't line up. Or you don't seem really confident in the way you're answering this. And she was always like, nope, that's where it is. This is where you turn. That street wasn't there. There's no explaining it. I'm not saying this wasn't a hoax, but I don't know how they would have done it.
Now, let me ask this. Does she have the maturity of a 30-year-old woman? Or does she have the maturity of a 10-year-old who just knows things? How does that work?
It's interesting because some of the themes that she speaks about, I think, are very adult. Surgeries, labor pains, personal details between a husband and a wife. More adult, just in concept.
Right.
But I don't really know how the delivery was. Does that make sense? So it's like sure. I can halfway answer it. I think the material was very adult in some ways. No one ever spoke to, does she sound like an 8-year-old when she's speaking that way? Or does she sound like a 30-year-old woman? I'm not sure.
Okay, because I'm just thinking even my 8-year-old, if I asked him to give me directions to our house, they would be able to do it. But we might take the long way kind of thing. So
I do not get the impression that was it. And the fact that she and Kedar are able to have lengthy conversations.
Right.
Not that an adult and an 8-year-old couldn't have a lengthy conversation, but I think there's more to it. So It might even be somewhere in the middle, a mix of both.
Okay.
Now, remember the buried money?
Yes.
Well, while exploring the house with Kedar, a member of the commission asked Shanti about it, because I'm sure that was in the back of everyone's mind. Okay, you found the house, that's amazing. But also, what about the buried money? Like this hidden money?
Any test we can give her, we're going to give her.
Yes. So Shanti quickly ran upstairs and headed straight to the corner of a room. And she said the box is under this floorboard. Kedar opened up the flooring, and indeed, they found a small coffer. But when they opened it, it was empty. Researchers said Shanti was visibly shocked, and began looking inside the hole, like looking inside under the floor, like it's had fallout. I know I put it in here. She was absolutely certain the money was there. Seeing her frustration, Kedar admitted that he had removed the cash after his wife's death, and this apparently infuriated Shanti/Lugdi, because that money was supposed to be set aside for something that Lugdi had saved. So apparently she was frustrated at her husband for taking the money that she had set aside.
After she died. I mean, well, that sounds like a wife, doesn't it?
This is what I'm saying. Like, some of the ways she reacts is like a 30-year-old wife and mother.
Right.
Now, Shanti's/Lugdi's reunion tour continued to Lugdi's former parents' home. One investigator wrote, quote, she not only recognized it, but was able to identify her father and mother, like her old father and old mother, in a crowd of more than 50 people. She pointed them out and said, that's my mom and dad. And she ran to them and embraced them, and according to a quote, wept bitterly at the sight of them.
And again, this is in the early 30s now. We're in the 1930s.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we don't have a whole bunch of photo albums laying around. We definitely don't have computers, social media, televisions. So it makes it even more incredible.
Yep. And her emotional reactions to things, too, to me, could they be faked? Yeah. But again, to fake that elaborate of an emotion from an 8-year-old, I think you would see through it with a commission of people sent to try to see through it.
And also, what motive does an 8-year-old have to carry on a hoax for this long? That would get kind of boring.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
If you're making it up, is what
Listen,
I'm saying.
she's convicted of whatever this is. Like, she feels very strongly this is who she is.
Right. Obviously.
Obviously.
I kind of think it's who she is, and I don't even think I believe in reincarnation.
I will tell you, I've talked to Barton, my husband, about this case a lot, because I can't say that I went into this believing in reincarnation, but then I stop and think, okay, but then how would this be possible?
Right.
Now, when it came time for the commission to return to Delhi, Shanti at first resisted. She didn't want to go back home. That was until she found out that Kedar had not followed through on several promises he had made Lugdi on her deathbed.
Oh.
So, spouses, keep that in mind. We will always find out.
Maybe that's her motivation right there for coming back. Like, oh, no, he didn't.
The spirit is strong in that one, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Now, the commission published its report in 1936, concluding that Shanti Devi was indeed the reincarnation of Lugdi Devi. The commission found, quote, no rational explanation, end quote, for what they witnessed.
It's amazing.
Now, in 1936 and 1939, Shanti also explained her experience with death and the afterlife. She claimed that at the time of her death, she felt dizzy and enveloped in a profound darkness. She then saw a bright flash of light that revealed 4 men wearing yellow underwear. Under hypnosis, she said, quote, all the 4 seemed to be in their teens, and their appearance and dress were very bright. They put me in a cup and carried me away, end quote. Devi said she saw the Hindu god Krishna showing each person a record of their good and bad activities on earth and telling them what would happen to them next. Then Devi said she was taken to a golden staircase from which she could see a river, quote, as clean and pure as milk, end quote. She said she saw souls there, and they appeared like flames in a lamp. In 1958, a newspaper interviewed Shanti again. She was 32 years old and had never been married. She was living a quiet, spiritual life in Delhi. Shanti Devi passed away in 1987 at the age of 61. Sture Lonestrand, a famous Swedish author and parapsychologist, published a book titled, I Have Lived Before, The True Story of the Reincarnation of Shanti Devi. After many years of interviewing all the living participants in the case, Sture was declared the only official biographer of Shanti Devi. His conclusion was that her story was completely true. Interestingly, though, he originally traveled from Sweden to India to prove this case was false.
Wow.
Yeah.
The skeptic.
Yep. Now, as I mentioned, when I was researching this case, I was interested to find that among the religions that do believe in reincarnation, there are differences in the way they believe it functions and its true purpose. While there are dozens that I could go over, I selected the top 4. So that would be Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism to show you what I mean by the different mechanics. Hinduism sees reincarnation as the soul, also known as Atman, moving through a cycle of birth and death called samsara, taking different forms like humans, animals, and gods. This cycle is driven by karma, the result of good and bad actions. The soul goes through many lives shaped by these actions. The goal is moksha, which is freedom from the cycle, reached through spiritual understanding, devotion, or good deeds, which will join the soul with Brahman, the ultimate reality. So, really, Hinduism is driven by this concept of karma. The more good deeds that are done, the more good deeds that are accomplished, you go through a cycle of reincarnation from animal to human to God, eventually seeking to be joined with Brahman, which is the ultimate purity, the ultimate God, the ultimate goal. And I will say, I'm approaching each of these religions with very broad strokes. Even within each of these, there are different sections that believe slightly different things. So I'm not the end all be all here. If you are interested, please go research it more. But again, this is just broad strokes for those that might not be familiar with reincarnation. Buddhism sees life as a cycle of being born again and again, not as a fixed soul moving between lives. So instead, it's like a stream of thoughts that keeps flowing through different forms of life, like gods, humans, and even suffering beings. Your actions and intentions, again called karma, decide where you end up next and how good or bad that life is. Ignorance and wanting things keeps the cycle going. The aim is to reach nirvana, a state where the cycle stops, by following a path of good behavior, meditation, and clean thinking. Now, unlike other beliefs, Buddhism says nothing lasts forever and there's no permanent self. So there's no permanent soul moving through. It's just energy.
Okay.
And you're trying to join your energy into nirvana.
All right. So eventually you become part of a much larger being or energy, massive energy.
Energy.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, this idea of streams of thoughts, flowing form, because no one is more important than anyone else, and we're all here to share light. Jainism believes the soul, or jiva, is pure but stuck in a cycle of rebirth, samsara, because tiny bits of karma cling to it from actions and thoughts. These bits decide what form the soul takes next, like a human, animal, or even a tiny creature. Jainism has a detailed map of how it works. To break free, moksha, and to reach a higher state, one must follow strict non-violence, live simply, and keep strong moral promises. Jainism stands out because it seeks karma as a real substance and stresses self-control. Sikhism sees life as a soul's trip through many lives shaped by actions, again, karma. So for all of it, karma is the thing.
Okay.
Though Sikhism believes they are also led by God's kindness. The soul, a piece of God, keeps being born until it joins Waheguru, which is their word for God, through love, honest work, and saying God's name. Unlike some religions that focus on giving up desires or say there's no self, Sikhism mixes actions with God's plan, keeping it simple and focused on devotion.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's interesting to me how all of these religions have parallels, but then they're all differences. And
I did not expect that.
yeah, it's interesting. And I see parallels to Christianity.
So there you go. This is an extremely summarized, in a nutshell, version of the prominent religion's view on reincarnation. I am not a philosophy or religious teacher or instructor, so please don't come at me if I got some of those wrong. But that's the gist for the big four.
And Lugdi practiced Hinduism, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, correct. So in her situation, she would have been living by karma. So she would have been trying to increase the good karma so that she would reincarnate into a higher understanding, like a higher spiritual understanding would be what she would reincarnate to, with the eventual goal of being with Brahman in the ultimate reality.
Okay. Well, she must be getting close because she seems pretty enlightened to me.
Well, this is what I'm saying, but it's so funny for being so enlightened and for having this knowledge. She still seemed slightly concerned with the things of Earth, which is kind of funny to me.
Oh, that's true.
I mean,
yeah, no, that's a good point. It sounds like she really loved her husband. So maybe she was looking out for his well-being and wanted him to save money and wanted him to accomplish certain goals or whatever these requests were that she made from him on her deathbed. Maybe that's what was bothering her.
It's possible. It's possible. Now, over the years, there have been many others that claim to remember their past lives. One, for example, is the Pollock twins, who were born in England in 1958. In 1957, Pollock's sisters, Joanna, aged 11, and Jacqueline, aged 6, tragically died in a car accident in Hexham, England. A year later, their parents gave birth to 2 twin daughters, Jillian and Jennifer, who seem to recall details of their deceased sisters' lives. And remember that year? That's a big indicator. And here are some super strange details from that case. Jennifer had birthmarks matching scars Jacqueline would have had from her injuries. And the twins recognized toys and places significant to Joanna and Jacqueline, such as specific dolls, and they even recognized the accident site despite no prior exposure.
Oh, I just got chills again.
Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
They also displayed irrational behaviors and fears consistent with their deceased sisters' experiences, like being terrified of cars, for example.
Oh my gosh, that's so sad.
Their case was studied by psychiatrist Ian Stevenson, a prominent reincarnation researcher who found the details compelling. He noted its proximity and timeline, which I had noted, and the physical and behavioral parallels, which were documented meticulously. There is also the case of James Leininger. James was born in 1998 in Louisiana and began having vivid nightmares at age 2 about being a World War II pilot who died when his plane was shot down.
This is terrifying. This poor baby.
Right? James described being James Huston Jr., a U.S. Navy pilot killed in 1945 during the Battle of Iwo Jima. He provided details about his plane, the ship he flew from, and the names of crewmates.
Wow.
His parents, who were initially skeptical, managed to verify many details through historical records, including the name of a pilot, Jack Larson, who James mentioned. How would he know that?
Wow, these are compelling stories. These are wild.
Yeah. James recognized locations and people from Huston's life, such as meeting Huston's surviving sister who confirmed personal details.
How do you explain that?
I can't. I hope you're not looking to me, because I sure can't.
Wow.
Now, his case understandably gained attention due to the specificity of James's memories, the verification of obscure historical facts, and media coverage. And it's often cited in modern discussions of reincarnation.
The stories you're telling us here, do they all share a certain religious belief? Or they may not even practice some of these religions. Is that correct?
Correct.
Wow, that's interesting.
And I think I would be remiss if I didn't say something about the Dalai Lama. While it isn't a specific case, it's reincarnation at its finest. The Tibetan Buddhist Dalai Lama is believed to be the reincarnation of Avalokitesvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, with each successive Dalai Lama identified through a rigorous process of signs, visions, and tests. The current 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, who was born in 1935, was identified as a young child through visions of high lamas, not LLAMA,
Right.
LAMA, recognition of objects belonging to the 13th Dalai Lama, and other spiritual signs. The tradition holds that the Dalai Lama's consciousness transfers to a new body, maintaining spiritual continuity. This is a culturally institutionalized example of reincarnation deeply embedded in Tibetan Buddhist practice. The practice is less about individual memory claims and more about spiritual lineage, making it unique among reincarnation cases. So it's a little bit different, but an absolute institution in reincarnation.
Right.
There are also multiple other cases that are really compelling, but we're running out of time here. Maybe I'll even do a continuation of this topic at some point because, again, some of these are really compelling.
They really are. And I would say I'm a skeptic just in most things. Like in most things, I look for the, yeah, but. And these have got me thinking. That's wild.
Something was happening. In my opinion, something spiritual was happening. I don't know what that is, but I believe something spiritual was happening. That's just my takeaway. Something not of this world.
I don't think you can argue that.
That's all I know for sure. That's all I know for sure. I don't know what form. I don't know for what purpose. But I do think that something we do not understand in a spiritual realm was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty compelling.
That's kind of why I picked this one. If you're going to pit any case of reincarnation, go for the big guns. And this is absolutely cited as the most documented. I can't say well understood because I don't think any of us understand what that means. But I absolutely think something was going on. I think she was privy to information that I don't know how she would have obtained.
Right?
You know, there's the idea of it's possibly a hoax. Maybe someone was feeding her information, but her parents were so reticent to take part in it at all that it doesn't make me think it came from them.
Well, and what do they have to gain? If anything, I can say I actually feel bad for her biological parents because I would find this very hurtful if my child looked at me and said, "You're not my mom. And can I please go home? Can I please go with my real family?" That would be so hurtful.
The other part of it is, could Gandhi and his commission try to make this into something that was more than it was, just to create excitement in their culture, in their country? But knowing how honest Gandhi was, I just can't imagine that happening.
As soon as you said it, I was like, come on, this is Gandhi. No.
Right. And so there's never been any sideways glances that way. If it was anyone less than Gandhi, I would say, yeah, that's possible. But at this point, I don't think I could look that direction.
Yeah, I mean, he's a human and all humans fall short. None of us are perfect, even Gandhi. But that doesn't sound like a very Gandhi thing to do.
If he's going to increase national pride, I don't think he's going to do it by faking a reincarnation case.
Right.
I just think there are lots of other things that he could do. So I don't think it was that.
Right.
I think the commission created a very fair assessment, and their notes have been reviewed by researchers from all over the globe and have not found to be fabricated or lacking. Again, I think if there's any case that's going to make you believe there's something going on spiritually outside of our realm of understanding, this is one of them.
Well, you've definitely given us something to think about, Stephanie.
Well, for our last episode of our celebration, not that we're going to stop celebrating. We've already said that we've been having so much fun making extra content. We're creating bonus episodes for Patreon and probably for our mainstream too. Yeah, I thought this was a fun one.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool stories.
All right, Cynthia. Well, let's do some Branch of Hope, our last time talking about the Jed Foundation.
All right. And it's perfect. We're rounding out Mental Health Awareness Month by talking about the Jed Foundation. It's just the perfect collaboration for this month.
Yeah, the Jed Foundation is really towing the line. The Jed Foundation helps young people, teenagers, and young adults to not feel alone in their mental health struggles. They help to educate teachers, coaches, mentors, and friends of young people to be able to spot someone who may be struggling mentally, who may need a little bit extra help. Their goal is to prevent suicides and to bring forth more healthy, positive thinking. I just think it's just such a wonderful service that they provide and much needed. And again, it's wonderful in May, Mental Health Awareness Month, that we are partnering with them and giving a substantial contribution from our little house here at the Dark Oak to the Jed Foundation. If you would like more information about the Jed Foundation, you can go to jedfoundation.org. You can head to our website, thedarkoak.com. You can go to our Instagram page, The Dark Oak Podcast, or you can send us a message and we will be happy to get you connected.
Stephanie, I'm so proud of these organizations that we've been able to help support in our nearly 2 years of having this podcast. it's organizations like the Jed Foundation that I'm just really proud that we get to collaborate with.
Yeah. And I love that our Patreon members love helping support them too. Just bringing everyone together and making people aware that these organizations are out there.
Right.
Whether you are in need of the services being provided by these organizations, or whether you want to contribute to these organizations. Either way, we want to bring awareness to them. We want to, as we've said many times this year, we want to bring attention to the helpers. And that's always our goal here. We don't take these sponsorships like absolutely part of our program and part of what we look forward to every month.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us for this bonus episode. Come back next week and we're going to bring you more thrills and chills.
Bye.
Bye-bye. This episode of The Dark Oak was created, researched, written, recorded, hosted, edited, published, and marketed by Cynthia and Stephanie of Just Us Gals Productions, and made possible by you, our shiver-seeking listener. Special thanks goes to Justice Himes for our incredible artwork and Ryan Crete for our amazing music.